Oh, hello there. Glad you could join us on Down the Donut Hole podcast. And what do we have from the news desk today?
Oh, we have quite a lot on the news desk. We took a nice long break from staring down the news. And so yesterday, pretty much the whole podcast was that kind of stuff. Today, I have a little bit, but I have something kind of interesting to finish with today. Oh, my goodness.
Oh. How inconvenient. Oh,
yes,
well.
Goodbye. And I have the ringer turned down, believe it or not, folks.
Oh, right. Okay.
Some of these calls.
We had a question. Take the caller. We could do that, actually,
I
sometime.
don't know what this is. Until I'm sure what this is, I better shut up. Anyway.
we might do that at some point.
Anyway, that was a nice little ring, kind of pleasant. If we're looking for balance and things
I think
to be
it's
happy
somebody
about.
calling in saying, "Oh, we don't want to hear the news. Just get on with the fluffy stuff."
Yeah, telling us, hey, shut up already. As you know, the Down the Donut Hole podcast is really just an opinionated idea stew. And so we try to cover all the topics kind of that are coming up, popping up.
Well, everybody seems to be spinning the news in one form or another, so why not us? What the heck?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're just a couple of citizens, senior citizens.
Cynics, did you say?
That's probably closer to the truth.
Probably is.
But I think our opinion is valid, and I think it's a different way of looking at things, a little bit more independent, kind of
from the trenches, so to speak,
Yeah.
or grassroots, maybe.
a grassrooty kind of opinion thing. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it. Yesterday, I saw something interesting in the news that I took apart. I thought about it a lot, especially, after I got in my bed. I wasn't quite ready to really fall asleep, and this just bugged me. This tariff war thing. Yesterday, I saw that Mrs. Leavitt, the press secretary for President Trump, she was all about
Do they
saying
keep
that
changing people? I never recognized the name.
she's been there since the beginning of this
Okay,
administration.
all right.
She's
Just me
very
then.
young. She seems to be doing an okay job defending the White House initiatives. She's certainly on board. She is certainly on board, and there doesn't seem to be a bunch of daylight or hesitation when it comes to defending a lot of the
That's
controversial
what she
things.
sounds like, a defense attorney.
She does a little bit, but she's
A hired gun.
She's very young. She doesn't look the part. Let's put it that way. Anyway, yesterday she was all up in arms because she said that there was an attack, essentially an attack job against President Trump's tariff initiatives on the part of Amazon, the company Amazon. Now, that's enough to take your breath away right there. Holy smokes, if that's not the War of the Titans, I don't know what is. But she called it an attack and called them right out on it. And the deal was this. Apparently, there was a report. It didn't come from Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon. It didn't come from him. It came from somewhere. That Amazon was going to list the original price of stuff on its website, and then the new price, including tariffs for anything that was going to be, applicable to that.
I get it now. I didn't quite understand it before, but that was an obvious lobby for, or against the tariffs, I should say.
Well, it will impact that business. It will. And how much business of Amazon's comes from China? I mean, it must be a staggering amount. And for me now, and you as a consumer, if I expect to pay, $8, I'm throwing that number out there, for a new dish drainer for my sink. If I'm expecting to pay $8, I'm pretty well sure that it's going to come from China. I just want a plastic one. I don't want anything that's you have to plug in and charge or any of those silly things that they keep developing, that you look at it and you think to yourself, who thinks up this stuff? Anyway, that's off topic. I expect to pay $8 for it or thereabouts, couple bucks either way. Okay, I get it. But if it's going to be now $12 or $15 for a dish drainer, then I need to understand that. And so if they put the new sticker on there, the original price plus what the tariff price is, that lets me know that the price of the actual materials to make a dish drainer, a plastic dish drainer, a humble, everyday, not sexy, not cool, just a utilitarian thing the households need. And if that tariff makes a huge difference, and that's going to come out of my wallet, which is already stressed when I go to the grocery store, I like to know that. Now, the next step in this thought process is for our administration to say, this is an attack. I'm thinking, wait a second here. You thought up those numbers. You applied these tariffs. It didn't come from Amazon. It didn't come from any of these other companies. So
Kind of shows
own
that
it.
they know that it's not great, and it would be bad publicity to point it out.
To point out exactly what those numbers are. Dave, that's exactly what I thought. And here's the thing, I think, for those of us just everyday people, just the peeps, I'll call us. In that confusion, in that mystery, misty, nebulous zone of what does that actually mean to me, you can get away with a hell of a lot if people don't know exact numbers. But if I see something that should be costing me $8 or $9 is now $14 or $15, then I have every right to be able to look at where that differential is coming from and question it. That is my right, or one would think that's our right as a consumer. I want information. To me, it comes down to, because this is such a serious thing for the average household who are stretching a very limited amount of dollars and trying to make it do miracles every week. I look at that and I think, you know what, that's almost like putting a sticker on a pack of cigarettes warning the public about the hazards of it. Or putting the list of ingredients on your bag of chips or a bag of colorful candies and letting us know, okay, this is loaded up with stuff that's not good for you. If you want those tariffs, then let's clear up the mystery and the fog and all the nebulous stuff. Let's let the public absolutely know how hard that hit is on us when we're buying stuff that, hey, you know
we
what?
all have that vote, so to speak, by not buying that thing that is now ridiculously expensive.
We can do that. But you know what? In the terms of my example, a dish drainer for the sink, that helps me. That helps me. It's a tool that I need. I want to make sure my dishes are nice and clean. I don't run a dishwasher. I wash them by hand. I can let them sit in the drainer and dry before I use the towels on them. And this is a tool that I need. It's not something that I'm lusting about or I'm, decorating my kitchen with. It's just a utilitarian, very humble tool that I use every single day. And when it's working good and it isn't broken, I don't think about it, And that's why I chose that particular example, because I don't want a wooden one. They get moldy. As much as I like them and they look nice, to me they're more of a decorative display item than just the humble little plastic dish drainer that I leave in my sink. I have a single basin sink. I use half of it for the dish drainer. I use the other half to wash. And then I pop them in there. They drain down into the sink. In just a very few minutes, I can pretty much put those dishes away, maybe with just a quick swipe of the towel. So this isn't something that's lovely to me or that I'm going to write home about and tell my kids, oh, guess what? I bought a new dish drainer. Unless somebody's complained, they're never going to know. No one cares except when you go to pay for it. And so if I'm paying, $4 or $5 more for what should be just a simple purchase, nothing grandiose, but it shouldn't be that much money. So I just think, don't use the fog of confusion to dupe people or to make people think that it's a supply chain problem or some residual COVID nonsense, lack of workers or something like that. If the difference in price, and see, the thing is it would be easy to hide on something like a dish drainer where I might think, wow, the price of these really went up since 5 years ago when I bought the last one. And not even think any more about it, just pay it. But if the price differential from the last one I bought 5 years ago to today is not that great, except for the application of these ridiculous tariffs, then I want
don't
to know
buy
that.
it. Just don't buy it. We'll make one out of coat hangers or something.
Easy for you to say. The next time you need a tool for something, I'll say, hey, don't buy it. We'll make one out of a handkerchief and a
We'll give it a try.
toothpick.
I'm open to it.
Yeah, you would be.
I would.
You know what the difference is, Dave? A lot of the tools
I'm a guy.
Yeah,
they're
but
kind of dumb about stuff.
yeah, but if
hey.
you did more dishes, you would not even be saying that. That sounds just knucklehead. The tools that you use, you don't
but
use them
my
50
point-
times a day.
But my point is that you have a line in the sand for sure. I mean, if they keep cranking it up, at some point you're going to say, I'm not freaking buying this.
Well, there's things I won't buy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to run out and buy myself, a plastic tote bag to take to the beach. I'll make do. That's not a tool that I use every day. It'd be handy, to take your stuff out on the sand or whatever. That'd be great, but I don't need that. That's not in the category of stuff that essentially is a tool, an unassuming tool that you use. And like I say, this is a really good example because it's something I use all the time, and I don't even think about it until you need a new one, And the one that I have is like a coat. It has a coating on it. It's like wire, and it has a plastic coating on it, and little nubby feet that don't scratch the sink. And I noticed that a lot of the plastic at the base has cracked and it's gotten rusty. And could I make it work? Maybe, but anything that's around my food, my dishes, and things like that, I prefer to have intact and good, and so I can clean it. That plastic is chipping off, and all this talk about microplastics getting into people's bodies and causing all of this havoc. Sometimes I wonder if this microplastic story isn't specifically timed to dampen down the public's appetite for plastic stuff, because so much of the plastic stuff that we use comes from, guess where? China.
A plastic factory. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's probably true. Yeah, anyway, that's my point. I mean, everybody has their line in the sand that they won't go past. And I do think some of this tariff threat stuff is to see what they can get away with. Well, and, if we don't let them, if temporarily we'll have to put up with the dish drainer that has some plastic flaking off of it for a while longer and say, no, we're not paying it. We're not buying it.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Well,
and then they'll find out, okay, we can't get away with any more than this amount or X, whatever.
Well, I heard one of the senators saying that this is and I think this is pretty much a quote, a brilliant tactic to negotiate prices. And I'm thinking, well,
I think that was probably Trump himself. It sounds like him.
No, it sounds like it came from there, but it was being echoed. And I think to myself, yeah, that's a brilliant tactic. But you have to kind of understand who your adversary is. And I know down here it's like every bus has some kind of a legal firm, and they all say so-and-so, whatever the firm is, won't back down.
Thank you, Tom Petty.
Thank you, Tom Petty.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to back down. It's on every bus down here.
He's probably rolling in his grave about all that.
Oh, I know. He probably is. He didn't strike me as that kind of guy, but it was a good song. Is a good song. Anyway, I think our administration overestimated the willingness of other countries to back down. Certainly, Canada has shown us they're not in a big hurry to back down. And certainly China, if you think about it, why would they back down? They can hold out. And so when people like you and I are putting off little purchases, that's not a earth-shattering thing, but it rankles. It bugs you. You look at it and you think, I have to wait out this tariff thing or fork over my money, extra money because of this. Am I going to see value on that anytime soon? The answer is no. Are they cranking up factories here in the United States to make sure that this is a short-term squeeze? No, I'm not seeing that. And furthermore, a lot of these factories, when they do crank them up, they have all of these promises about how many people that they're going to hire. And then, so they give them 10 years or 20 years of low taxes or no taxes in the states that they set these factories up in. And then long about the time that the taxation is supposed to kick in, they're out of there. So the state never really sees benefit from that. People have some jobs, but long about Christmas time, usually they lay off a bunch of folks, and everybody's always feeling grateful if they're in the crowd that still has a job. So I'm getting more and more cynical, and I have an easy time counting my blessings when I'm looking for little things and simple things. But when you look at that, all of it, none of that's a big blessing to me or you or anybody that runs in the circles that I do.
No, that's true. And sadly, there are going to be probably equal or greater things that are not considered blessings, so to speak. But
keep looking and keep pointing them out and talking about them, because it makes you feel better inside. It keeps you healthy.
Like
to
we
do
keep
that.
saying, it is about balance. And,
yes.
If you go back, you start getting stressy and you feel it in your body even, then that's the time to seek out the silver lining and dwell on that for a while.
Or find yourself a little project that you can complete from beginning to end, pretty much with resource you have on hand, and that makes you feel better. This tariff thing, still on the same subject, but a little bit different. I'm going to wrap that up. If this administration thinks that tariffs are such a great idea, then I think, okay, do your thing. But I think the converse of that should be, or an adjunct to that should be, but it should be listed on the price tag of every single thing. Have stickers made up. The big retailers, put a sticker on that so I know what the differential is. Just like cigarettes, just like the pack of candy. Let me know what I'm working with there so I don't have to pull out a calculator and do the math myself on what this slippery number is that's causing such a dent in my functional cash. So that. Also, here locally, one of the international grocery stores. It was a great place to shop. Just, so much fun. You could go and get ingredients and then come home and try recipes, and that. Closed up, just mysteriously. Open a couple days ago, now closed up. And the public went there to do their, little shopping, and there was food, good canned goods, shelf-stable stuff in front of the store, free for the taking, and the store was shuttered.
And you point out that it was ethnic and
yes, an international grocery. So I think the combo of the tariffs, which will now be applied to all imported things, plus perhaps immigration issues, everybody's afraid. And that spirit of fear is just everywhere now. It hangs. It's like a sickness. It's like a poisonous fog everywhere. And yet, I understand from some of the national polls that among, of all people, Christian nationals, this harsh immigration, mass deportation thing has a high level of acceptability. And I mean, when we walk back to the homilies of our recently deceased Pope Francis, He was not about that. He didn't think that was good or acceptable in any way, because these are vulnerable people who have nowhere to turn. And his message was very consistent with my understanding of what Christian teachings are all about. So anyway, that being said, it's sad. That was a great place to go. I enjoy it. And I just want to say I'm grateful for having had those experiences, because it was wonderfully interesting and fun.
Well, it's something that the community as a whole has lost.
Yes.
And I don't think very many people think about it that way, but they should.
Absolutely, they should. And even the other retailers, they're going to be feeling it too, because exactly as you point out, Dave, people are going to be holding off on making purchases. And so the downstream from this, the danger, the hazard of that is absolutely going to be felt. We see people boycotting the big retailers because of these, pulling back on these DEI initiatives because of the government mandates to do so. And so that gives you kind of an unpleasant feeling. Then you add that some sticker shock, and
well, the power is with the people, and I think we need to realize that. And yeah, it's going to be tough, but that's the best way. Like you say, you can quote unquote vote, and it's not to buy. The tariff is kind of like a commission, isn't it? And you're not going to make any extra money unless you make a sale. And if nobody's buying, you're not making a sale. So that's the way that the populace can have some say about this.
But if those places aren't making the sale, and if the public does have to vote with their pocketbook, jobs are going to go, because those big retailers and certainly the small businesses are going to be hit first. My old saying is, you feel the waves in a dinghy a lot sooner than you do if you're floating in a yacht. And so all the dinghy businesses, all the little businesses, which people need to be reminded, that is the backbone of our economy.
This issue is precisely why we say things like, find ways to live as cheap as you can, because that's something that we do have a certain amount of control over.
Yes. Do you want to hear a small blessing that I encountered this morning?
Sure.
People have heard me talk about, we try to have a soft footprint. So we have those little portable washer and dryers. Dave, I went out there to do the wash this morning before we started this broadcast.
Oh, no. Was there a snake?
No, there was no snake.
Oh, okay.
But you know what there was? The washer didn't work.
Why?
It didn't work.
You fixed it, though, I'm sure.
I had all the water in it. I had it loaded up. I turned it on, and it just kept going click, really softly. Click, click. I turned it again. I pushed it down. I pushed the button down. I thought, it sounds like it's not making contact. Pushed it down. All of a sudden, I'm feeling, oh my gosh, this would be really an awful thing. I love that little washer and the little dryer so much. It saves me so much hauling to laundromats, and I don't really have space in this cottage for a full setup. I mean, I can make space.
Well, we do. There's a hookup in
but
the utility room.
That space is taken up with other stuff.
Yeah, but the thing of it is that a lot of times it's a waste, because you're filling the whole big washer with water when you might not need all of that.
Yeah, I really don't. If I do my wash once a week, and then I hang it out on the line. All the big stuff gets hung on the line to dry, so it dries completely or almost so that I can just run it for a little while in the little dryer. I don't do like underwear and socks out on the line because it takes up too much space. So I throw those in the little dryer. Anyway, click, click. And I'm there, oh no, I'm out of the home laundry business. All of a sudden I realized I had not plugged it in.
How did it click? Oh, that's
it must be a little mechanical.
Really strange.
It must be a little. Maybe it's a ghost.
Yeah, give us something more to talk about on our ghost days.
The ghost of laundry past. No, it must be a little mechanical timer.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, I plugged it in. It works great. So I consider that a little blessing, because the moment real panic. And I thought, it's going to take me so much longer and so much more fuss.
Stuff always works a little bit better when it's plugged into power.
Thank you. It's like those call centers where you call in about your computer and one of the first questions they ask is it plugged in? Are you sure it's plugged in? And I always make fun of that.
Off and back on again.
Yeah, that's right. I always make fun of that because it seems like such a duh. Well, you know what? It happens, and I'm very humbled to admit that was a silly, silly mistake on my part, but all turned out well. So nobody has to worry about me not being able to wash my duds. So that's a little off topic, but at least it's a happy story. Also, I saw that was something I'm still kind of mulling over in my mind. I saw what was a satellite image of the USS Harry Truman, apparently doing a U-turn, and they're saying that this is a satellite image from, I believe, the UK that shows the instance where that fighter jet went slipping into the Red Sea.
So they did a hard U-turn and it just fell off.
Well, apparently they were towing it, but why would you do a hard U-turn? A hard U-turn on a bicycle is one thing, but a hard U-turn for an aircraft carrier seems to me like that's something that you have to kind of bear down on, and that's not going to be an instantaneous thing. So if you're in the middle of some sort of a towing operation, then I would think that the protocols would be anchor down. We're about to hang a U-turn, retract, or somebody could get hurt doing that. And I guess there was one minor injury, but anyway, so that satellite image it looks like a horseshoe. I'm not talking about something that seems to be a wide arc. This didn't. It looked tight. And if so, everything should have been battened down immediately. So was that order given? I don't know. I have a lot of questions about, is this satellite image from the exact instance that this accident happened, that we lost a $70 million investment in the Red Sea? Is it real? Can I trust it? And because there's so many, I have a hard time buying anything with any of that because it all just seems very slapdash. It's like hanging a U with your camper trailer, not hooked up properly on the back of your truck.
With stuff stacked too high on there or something.
Yeah. Doesn't it seem like that? Mm-hmm. And you kick yourself. You say, I'm so dumb. Well, for a personal investment, if it is your camper trailer or something like that, that's on you. You were fully in charge of that. You should have checked it. It's like me, exactly like me. I should have checked that I was plugged in, but I didn't. And that's on me.
Eventually.
It worked out okay for me, but I should have checked, right?
Yeah, at first, actually.
Yeah, ahead of time.
I can't say much. I've done similar things.
Everybody has.
Try every other thing that could be wrong. Oh, wait a minute. Is it plugged in?
Yeah. Do I have batteries in this thing? But anyway, I should have checked, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's how I feel about this Harry Truman aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Whoever was about to make that maneuver, if that's what we're supposed to believe, if that's actual fact, you're going to maneuver like that, anchor everything down, because that's not a gentle movement, what I saw. So who knows if it's actual, who knows if this is a convenient story to kind of let the public have something to hang on to for why that kind of stuff happens, why $70 million of taxpayers' money is now on the bottom of the Red Sea for no good reason. So, all right, that. And then my story kind of correlates. People make mistakes.
$70 million jets versus your dish drainer.
No, not my dish drainer, my washer.
Sorry, yeah.
My little teeny weeny washer.
That's worth a little bit more than the drainer.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Again, this is a commercial for no specific brand. If you ever have a chance to buy one of those, do it. If you do it only for the ringer part of it, they are so good. And it doesn't take up any space, and I love it. I sound like I'm bragging about it. But,
yeah, no, it's
hey,
true.
when you like something, it works. It works
Plus,
for
it's
you.
easier to power from alternative energy. You couldn't really do it very conveniently with the big appliances.
Right. So it saves us money. And if you are a household of two or that, it's a little hard. I wouldn't advise trying to do sheets larger than queen size in there. In the big quilts and stuff, forget it. You got to go to the laundromat for that. But for the everyday laundry, it works great. And the little chamber holds a surprising amount. So think about that to save money. Okay, I saw the state of New York has joined several other states in banning the use of cell phones by kids in school. And Governor Hochul in New York State is saying from bell to bell, which I thought, hey, that's kind of a good slogan. So when you get the early morning bell until the school's out for the day bell in the afternoon, no cell phone use.
Yeah, so you don't have the lawyers finding loopholes, though. What I can remember from my school days, it was more of a buzzer. So they'll say,
the
oh,
morning.
no, I didn't hear a bell.
Yeah, but that is the bell. Anyway, it's just, she should say the signal.
Or any other signaling noise. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the signaling noise, whatever that is. Apparently there are exceptions for kids with medical situations, and so they have a host of workarounds for specific incidences. But I go back to when you and I went to school. Mm-hmm. We managed without any cell phones, and if our mom had
I don't know how the internet, but yeah, we did. And also, how about the concept of them looking up the answers to things?
Well, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Plus, I think that they are finding out that the kids really are hooked on those devices. And if at least during the day they're forced not to use them. However, now for me, I use my phone. I use it for a dictionary. I use it to spell check my stuff.
I thought you were going to say you use it as an addiction.
I probably am.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
probably am because I'm always kind of looking for stuff. But in that way, that's kind of handy. You don't have to pull out the laptop or a tablet and, sign in and all of that. I just quick look something up, check things, and get on with my business. And I would miss that. If somebody took that and said I couldn't use it, from bell to bell, from early morning until mid-afternoon, I would be hard-pressed. I would really miss that. But
at least we have the perspective of knowing that you can do without them, and it has been done for most of the history of humankind.
Yes. And
by far.
We did find. I do think that, coordinating now with parents, back in our day, not every household was a two-income household. A lot of them were one-income households, and moms were home, or grandma was there, or, somebody was there. And coordinating pickups. Now, nobody picked me up from school. I got, if I could, I got on the bus and took the bus. And it wasn't to my door. It was a couple blocks away, 3-4 blocks away. And I walked the rest of the way home or got to stepping. I walked home. And it was not close. That was over a mile.
And you did it in bare feet in the winter.
Uphill both ways.
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. But I did walk. And I think the exercise is good. So there was no big issues with coordinating pickups or times or anything like that. A group of friends, we all were headed in the same direction. And so we hiked home. And there were 2 or 3 routes that I think 3 routes that we mostly took. And I don't ever remember a time where that it was an issue. Just go home. Even in the bad weather, even the cold New York State winter weather, we walked, you dressed for it, and you wore boots, but I didn't even think differently.
No.
So.
Although I had a name for it, it was Frosty in the morning out there. It was always, even in the summer. It was
well, in the mornings it was
frosty,
cool.
yeah.
Kind of cool and foggy and stuff. I do think that they need to have maybe cell phone usage zones in schools. Maybe in the front lobby, you can make a call to your mom, but you have to be standing in the lobby. And maybe have a sign-in chart. You have to sign in when you enter the cell phone zone. You sign in and you make your call and you sign out. And then we know that you're not on there chatting with your chums. Or if we notice that one kid seems to be signing in and signing out all the time, then we can say, okay, what's the deal with this? And you can kind of run that down on an individual basis. But because some households, it is more difficult to coordinate, because if you have kids in 2 or 3 different schools, it isn't like it was when we were kids, where you had pretty much the neighborhood school. And, well, in my case, it was a mile away. Pretty much everybody went to that school. There were only 2, in the area. And you went to that school. And so there was only a couple of pickup spots. But I know my daughter, she has a kid in high school. She got another one that's in grade school. She has a daughter who started her freshman year of community college. And so she's running between those 3 places, plus all the other errands that she has to run. I mean, she's on the road all the time doing things. An unsung hero, because think about that. And now they want to cut all of these fundings to the schools. And you know that the buses are going to be one of the things that they look at to trim back. So those cell phones are connected with a massive amount of coordination. And it is different now with 2-income households and separate school systems and things like that. And so I think we have to look at it. It isn't all social media usage that the kids are using those phones for.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. But there are exceptions, And I think just having those acceptable zones, cell phone zones.
Like between classes or something, maybe. Yeah. Otherwise, they'd have to make sure that they have an active switchboard at the school in case there was a family emergency at home.
Yes.
And they had to be gotten a hold of.
Something else that I saw in regard to that is some of the parents were saying, the incidence of school shootings has become so shockingly high that they want to know that they can get in touch with their kid instantly. And if they're not allowing the kids to carry those phones on their person, then for parents...
That's an important distinction, I think, because in the case of that, some of these shootings seen the very good use for having a cell phone active with you at all times, right? So I don't know. Did you see if they're collecting these phones, or
it
there's
sounded
some other?
Like that
or if it was
was
just a rule that you couldn't have it on.
It sounded like that was one of the issues. How were they going to store those phones? Were they going to allow the kids to have them on their person? And
that's
big
really
question.
the only safe way.
Really?
They have to have them, but turned off.
Well, yeah, but if you're booting up your phone and it goes, hello, your phone blats out a hello, you can't have that. If this is a safety device, sort of as a backup, if we're going to allow the proliferation of guns...
Then they have to be on airplane mode.
Okay. Airplane mode. And if you're caught making calls or something like that to your friends, then you get your phone suspended, or your phone usage, and you have to turn it in. We put your phone in jail. Yeah. We put your phone in jail for X period of time that gets progressively longer with each offense. How about that? So anyway, but I appreciate that. I mean, that back in our day was not really something that we thought much about. That there would be some gunman picking kids off in the school.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
So now I don't blame parents for saying, I want my kid to have a phone. And, the truth is, when we look back at the history of some of these school attacks, sometimes it's been the kids that get through to 911 first.
Yeah, that was what my point was about them. They should be able to keep the phone with them. And I think airplane mode's the best solution there, yeah.
Okay. I like that. And we have only about 5 minutes left, but I wanted to talk about something else that I think is cool. Kind of an antidote to all of this heavy stuff. Cardboard.
Oh, that's exciting. We can thank Amazon for that, though. We have an endless supply of cardboard.
Well, we won't be having as much if we hold off on our purchases, right?
That's right.
One of the reasons that I think cardboard is an interesting thing to talk about right now is because everybody's kind of gearing up with the spring mindset. And people may not know that you can take and flatten those boxes right out. And if you want to have like a little garden, you can do what's called a no-till garden by taking that cardboard, flattening it out, and setting it where you want to put your little garden. And then flatten it out, set it on the grass or whatever else is growing there. Anchor it down with maybe a brick or two, placed. Make it, use as many boxes as you need to get your little plot that you want, and leave it there. Let it get wet. It's not the most beautiful thing. Some people cover it with mulch so it looks a little better, but some people, like me, just leave it. Who cares? And
yeah, but that's the purpose of the cardboard is to be mulch. So it doesn't make sense to spend money on mulch if you've got free cardboard.
There's more attractive looking mulch, Dave. Anyway, so you leave it there about 3 months.
Spread some dirt on top.
Yeah, you could do that, but then you got to move it. Spread it out. 3 months later, you lift that, and basically the topical growth is gone, and it's beautiful dirt under there. And that I can attest to because I did this at my son's place actually the summer before I did it. In the fall, I put the cardboard down. He has a little area near a bay window, and it was always overgrown, and it's just kind of a pain. So, and there had been like weeds in there and, stuff. So I cleaned all of that out, put the cardboard down, anchored it down. And he told me, my son told me, he goes, I'm not loving the look of that. And I said, well, did you love the look of the weeds? And he didn't have an answer. But I, excuse me, I lifted it later. Oh, it's beautiful. So they put in some pepper plants and some other things in that spot. And so now it's a nice, functional little garden. And
you could just cut some circles in the cardboard, couldn't you, and just put your seedlings in there. And then, that would remain as
yeah, you probably
keep
could.
the weeds down as your other plants that you want are growing.
Do you know that 3.2 billion trees are cut down for paper packaging every year? But there's a new company, and I have to hurry and finish the story, called Craste, Craste. It's a company in India. And basically what they're using is like rice husks and barley straw and things like that to make paper
boxes,
to make paper packaging. And I know that rice is, a lot of people like spray their plants with it, or they make like a rice tea that they start like cuttings in. And so I'm thinking, wow, if there's a content of rice in some of the cardboard instead of just wood pulp, that would actually enhance that soil over time and make it so that a garden would grow much, much better. So give it a shot. I also use it under low decks at my son's place. They get a lot of cardboard, so I just flattened it out and tucked it in between the boards and put it down there because there's always weeds that like to grow up between there. So give it a shot. It works great. It's a good springy thing to do, and it'll get rid of all of that cardboard so you don't have to haul it out to recycling. And who knows whether they'll take it or whether they won't take it. So with that, I'm going to say you have lots of blessings. Open your eyes and begin to count them, because it makes you feel better inside, and you'll be able to share it with other people, so it'll make other people feel better. And we'll get through this, folks.
We will.
Have a great day.
Keep on going. Yep. Bye-bye now.